Tommy Jaggi of FanSided here with NFL expert Marcus Mosher as we talk about playoff football, head coaching vacancies, everything that football fans want to hear about right now. What a wild coaching cycle this is, Marcus. I think 10 available jobs to begin with, or in total, some of those have now been taken. We're going to talk about those, the results of the divisional games. You can check out all of this on fansided.com. Come there daily for your sports news, particularly NFL news right now. Red hot, Marcus. Let's talk about the divisional round. 2 overtime games we got this week, 2 overtime games, 1 massive blowout. I mean, what are your overall thoughts from the divisional round? Were you excited to see how things ultimately played out this week?
This is usually my favorite weekend in all football because you get the 8 best teams in the league, and more often than not, 3 of the 4 games end up being really good. And that was the case this weekend. I mean, all those games were phenomenal. But I think, to me, Tommy, the most surprising outcome overall, it wasn't the Seahawks winning, because I think you and I both thought the Seahawks would win. It's how they won that game. I mean, that game was over by the end of the first quarter. And we knew that San Francisco was in a tough spot, considering all of their injuries. But we thought maybe they had a chance to hang around and make this a game because it's Kyle Shanahan, Robert Saleh at the time. But no, Seattle just played at a completely different speed. And kind of coming out of the divisional round of the playoffs, I really wonder, is there anybody that can beat them the rest of the way? And again, we'll talk about this in our championship preview, but to me, it really feels like the Super Bowl is this matchup between the Seahawks and the Rams, and the Super Bowl that we get a couple weeks later is just a formality. Like whoever ends up coming out of the AFC is going to finish second to the Rams or Seahawks, because those feel like the 2 best teams in the league to me.
First of all, Marcus, I agree with you. Divisional round football, one of the best weekends of the entire year, because typically you get those iffy wild card matchups out of the way, some of those blowouts. Now, we still saw one in the divisional round, but to answer your question, I mean, yes, Seattle is that good. And I was surprised to see them not win, but win as easily as they did against Kyle Shanahan's 49ers. It wasn't close. We watched that game together, and my goodness, you talk about just a one-sided affair. Brock Purdy, 15 of 27, 140 yards, 5.2 yards an attempt, had an interception this game, 54.6 passer rating. And on the other side, Sam Darnold only had to throw the ball 17 times in the entire game. Darnold only needed 124 passing yards to get the job done. And it just completely overwhelmed the 49ers, both sides of the football, and all 3 phases, really, special teams as well. I mean, terrific game from Rashid Shaheed in this one as well. Do you expect that type of dominant performance moving forward? Is this just a one-off? Because we've talked about Seattle for weeks now, maybe really halfway through the season, talking about them as potentially the best team in the league. They certainly look like they are.
I mean, I don't think it's going to be that easy for them against the Rams. We've been pretty we believe that the Rams and the Seahawks are the 2 best teams in the NFC for a while now. And I think these 2 matchups in the regular season have been incredibly close, with one of those games going into overtime. I do think having this game being in Seattle, I do think that's going to make a difference. They also had an extra day of rest because they played on Saturday, whereas the Rams played a Sunday night game in Chicago. I think if you asked me to pick today, I would pick Seattle to win that game, but I fully expect a very close, low-scoring game next Sunday.
Well, let's get to that here in just a little bit, Marcus. Another note from this game, just completely lopsided rushing attack. I mean, Kenneth Walker, 19 carries, 116 yards, a trifecta in the scoring department. But Zach Charbonnet out for the season now with that ACL tear that has been confirmed. How does that affect Seattle's rushing attack here?
Not too much. The only difference is they used Charbonnet a ton at the goal line, and that has, kind of allowed Walker to get more of your every down touches in the middle of the field. The good thing is they didn't put a ton of miles on Walker in the regular season, so I do think he's going to be ready and fresh for this playoff game. It's going to hurt, but Walker's the better overall player, and I think they can kind of cobble together a running back by committee approach behind him over the next 2 games.
Marcus, let's talk about Kyle Shanahan for just a second here. Is there pressure on the 49ers head coach at this point? I mean, they lost really badly. And again, they were outmatched. They didn't have as much talent. They're dealing with injuries. They haven't quite gone above and beyond the expectations that we've had of this team. I mean, kind of dating back since 2022, 23, when they maybe had the best roster in the entire league. They haven't been able to get over the hump, and that certainly didn't happen this time around. Is there any pressure on Shanahan, who, by the way, I think both you and I would consider as one of the best coaches still in the NFL?
I think there's pressure on Kyle Shanahan because he wants to win that Super Bowl. He's too good of a head coach not to have a Super Bowl win. And man, he's been incredibly close, whether it was as an offensive coordinator in Atlanta in that wild 28-3 game, whether it was the overtime loss to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. He's had some really close opportunities to get it done. And as you get older, it just becomes a lot harder to get that Super Bowl. And you look at the outlook in the NFC over the next couple of years, and Seattle looks incredibly strong. We know Sean McVay and the Rams are always going to be good. There's a couple up and coming teams in the NFC that I think, like the Bears, you're going to have to worry about over the next several years. I don't think his job is in jeopardy or anything like that, but I do think Shanahan wonders, how many more opportunities am I going to get to actually go after this thing? So I'm sure he is feeling the heat a little bit.
Yeah, I would imagine that he has to at this point, just not the outcome that they were looking for at all. Let's talk about the other NFC game from the divisional round, Marcus. Rams Bears, and what a game! I mean, it was a defensive struggle most of the time. Credit those defense coordinators in this contest because they were able to keep the offense in check, but this one got sent into overtime. You talk about maybe the throw of the season, or at least the postseason, from Caleb Williams, Marcus, who was not perfect by any stretch of the imagination in the playoffs, made some costly mistakes, including the game-causing interception at the end of the game that took away all chance of trying to go down and get that final score. But the throw that he made in the back of the end zone, fading away, two guys in his face. I mean, you can see all the talent is there. Chicago is now out of the race. The Rams advance. I mean, this Bears team is going to be really exciting moving forward. But man, Sean McVay just did it again. I mean, he is that guy.
He also got a little lucky. Let's be honest.
That's true. Yeah.
If the Bears just kind of dink and dunk their way down the field in overtime and just kick a field goal, they lose that game. And we're talking about some of the awful late clock management by Sean McVay. If you remember, right before overtime, before the Bears scored that touchdown to Komet, they went 3 straight runs. And that's what allowed the Bears to get the ball at midfield with about 2 minutes left on the clock. So he gets off the hook a little bit here. But one thing from this game that I think we should remember is Caleb Williams and Matthew Stafford both had some mistakes. And that's why this game was relatively low scoring for two of the better offenses in the league. The winds were awful in Chicago. They were whipping. These were 45-mile-an-hour wind gusts. It just so happened to be that these are two of the strongest armed quarterbacks in the league that are able to cut through that wind. So it didn't look that way on TV, that the ball was really moving all over the place. I'm going to give both these guys a little bit of slack for their performances. Mm-hmm. But you're right. On Caleb Williams, like, he made so many big plays all postseason long that you can live with the mistakes, whether that's the 4th and 8 play that he made against Green Bay where he was falling down and threw the ball to Rome Odunze, or the touchdown to Cole Kmet, or a play on 4th down where he used his legs to get a first down. It's not perfect. He's got a lot of cleaning up he needs to do in his game. But if you're a Bears fan, this season couldn't have gone better. Ben Johnson looks like the answer at head coach. Caleb Williams progressed. Your defense got better as the season went on. You've got to be excited about the future here.
Oh, absolutely. And Marcus, on the other side of the coin there, Matthew Stafford with just the most underrated throw of the postseason, I think, to Devontae Adams. Brilliant catch. I mean, that showed off his arm talent with that one as well. Just two of the elite arms in the NFL going at it in that game. Definitely a fun game to watch. Over in the AFC, Marcus, the Buffalo Bills fell in the other overtime contest 30-33 to the Denver Broncos. And now we're sitting here. It's like, man, we look at that. I mean, for selfish reasons, we would have loved to seen a Josh Allen versus Drake May matchup in the championship game in the AFC. Now we're going to be getting Jarrett Stidham. And you just talk about just a devastating blow to the Denver Broncos. We'll talk about Stidham here in a second, but what Bo Nix means for that team and really what he's done over his first 2 years has been pretty impressive overall.
Yeah, and I don't think Bo Nix had an amazing game against Buffalo, but every time they needed a big play, he delivered. And he made some awesome plays late in that game to get Denver down there in scoring position. And I was going to talk about this for the Buffalo side, but there were multiple 3rd and longs that Buffalo had Denver in. All they need to do is get 2 stops and they win the game and they're advancing to the AFC Championship game. And Bo Nix made the play every single time. And that was with Pat Bryant, who left the game early with a concussion. You had Marvin Mims, who dealt with a back injury. This was already a wide receiver core that's not the most talented unit, and he's still going out there and making these big plays. And now it's going to be Jarrett Stidham, who's going to be running the show. And I know that seems like a death nail for the Broncos' chances. I will say, though, it's in Denver. You've got one of the best offensive masterminds in Sean Payton. It's a veteran quarterback who's been around a while. I won't be surprised if the Broncos put together a game plan, whether it's through trick plays or running the ball or using Stidham's legs to try to get to like 20 points. I think that's the goal. And if you can get 20 points with this Broncos defense, you have a shot. I would take the Patriots, but I'm not completely ruling out the Broncos winning this game because we've seen someone like Nick Foles get to a Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl before. Don't rule it out.
In fact, I think Nick Foles actually tweeted something out after that game and said, hey, backup quarterbacks can do it. Paraphrasing, of course. Marcus, the Patriots just took control of the Texans. And again, I mean, the story of the game and just another dismal performance from CJ Stroud. I don't know what in the world happened to him. I know that you had some comments and you chimed in on X for a little bit there as well. And maybe he did too much stuff during the offseason, too many podcasts, not maybe solely focused on football. We can talk about Bobby Slowick losing his job last season. What kind of an impact did that have? Either way, I mean, you look at these last 2 games from CJ Stroud, it couldn't have been much worse. Put the football on the turf 5 times against the Steelers and what resulted still somehow in a 30-6 win. This time, the takeaways, the turnover-worthy plays, you could not overcome them against the New England Patriots in this contest, and just a really, really rough CJ Stroud performance.
I think the most telling thing from the game is that the Texans were down by 12 with under 4 minutes to go with 1 timeout, and there was a 4th and 14, and DeMeco Ryans punted. No other team in the league punts in that scenario because you punt the ball, the game is over. I think DeMeco Ryans thought his defense, even though he knew New England was going to be running the ball, had a better shot of creating a turnover than what CJ Stroud had of converting a 4th and 14. And that says a lot about your quarterback, that you were in this spot where you did not trust him at all. And there were several times in this game where the Texans were in scoring position. I thought they should have just kicked the ball on 1st or 2nd down or just ran it over and over again, because every time Stroud dropped back to throw, it was a disaster for Houston. They've got a big decision to make this offseason when it comes to Stroud. His 5th-year option has to be decided. I've got to assume they're going to pick it up. But, man, there has been nothing over the last 18 months that suggests that you should. I mean, he's really tailed off since his rookie year, and now we're in a really tough space with Stroud because, Tommy, I think if you have a below-average quarterback performance against New England, you beat them. I mean, Houston's defense was unbelievable. They only gave up 21 points. They forced 4 fumbles on Drake May. They had an interception. Like, they were awesome in that game. But the quarterback was so bad that he actually took away your chances of winning that game.
Absolutely. I mean, 47 pass attempts in this game. Stroud was good for just 4.5 yards an attempt, 4 interceptions, could have been more takeaways, even more. Took 3 sacks. And again, you're playing a good New England defense, but a 28 passer rating in this game, 21 QBR. It was just a really, really bad performance. And he was the reason. I mean, he's the one that everybody can point the finger to afterwards and say that was not good enough. Defense, that was good enough. I think that if you don't turn the ball over, you turn it over 2 fewer times, you might win that football game. And so the conversation, I think, has to be had, Marcus, and just like, it's wild because 2 years ago, after CJ Stroud was the offensive rookie of the year, I don't know if there was a trade package you could have given the Houston Texans for CJ Stroud. I mean, he was like a 22-year-old quarterback at the time, looked like one of the most promising assets in the league, and just how far he has fallen since then.
It's a good reminder that quarterback development is not linear. Just because a guy is really good early on doesn't mean that it's always going to continue. And really, there's a lot of cases out there where these guys are really good earlier in their careers and they kind of just tail off or they kind of plateau. I think that's where we're at with Stroud, and it's going to be up to him to figure out a way that he can take that next step as a player, because the version that we saw in the divisional round and honestly against Pittsburgh last week, it's just not going to be good enough. Like, even if you have the best defense in the league, which Houston has, it's not going to be good enough. The Texans need more from their franchise quarterback.
Absolutely. He needs to rebound in a massive way. All right, Marcus, let's talk about the championship matchups for this weekend. Should be exciting. Maybe had the chance to be more exciting. NFC, we're going to get an awesome matchup. AFC, kind of wish we could swap out the Broncos there with Jarrett Stidham, but we'll talk about him in just a second. Let's start with that AFC matchup, Marcus. The Broncos were the number 1 seed, host the number 2. That's what you see oftentimes is those 1 and 2 seeds meeting. We see it again this year with the Broncos and the Patriots. I mean, Patriots, obvious, huge quarterback advantage in this game. You're talking about a top 2 MVP candidate in Drake May this season, who led the NFL in yards per attempt, adjusted yards per attempt, passer rating, I believe, as well. I mean, he was just phenomenal. And now we're talking about him facing a backup quarterback. Defense, maybe give the edge to Denver a little bit, but New England's still really good in that regard. We're talking about a 1 versus a 6 seed here, and a realistic chance that the 6 seed is going to come away.
1 versus 2 seed. New England ended up being the 2 seed.
Excuse me. I was looking at Buffalo. 1 versus 2 seed here. And I mean, just how do you see this game going with Denver having home field advantage and having a top tier defense? Is that going to be good enough?
I don't know, but I think the overarching opinion that I have of this game is, and this is what's kind of my concern all year long, is that it felt like the top of the AFC was really down and weak compared to previous years. I think they had a lot of depth. I think like the Chargers as a 7 seed were a good team. I think the Ravens as your 8 seed, pretty decent team, but the top level teams just don't feel like they're the same caliber as previous years. And now you get into a matchup, even if Bo Nix was healthy, I don't think you feel awesome about these two teams. I think the only way Denver can win this game is if they force Drake May into a lot of 3rd and longs, because he has 6 fumbles in his last 6.5 quarters of playoff football. You want him having to drop back and throw the ball in this game against the edge rushers of Houston and trying to challenge Patrick Surtain and these cornerbacks down the field. If you're Denver, the key is to get an early lead, whether it's 7-3, 10-7, 13-3, something where you can, start to tee off on Drake May, because if they get behind in this game and New England can just run the ball, play the clock, I have a hard time seeing Denver being able to overcome that. But don't count out Sean Payton. He's done a great job throughout his entire career playing with backup quarterbacks. Tommy, I'm sure you remember that stretch. I think it was in 2020 or 2021 where Teddy Bridgewater went 6-0 with the Saints. Jameis Winston played really good football for them. Taysom Hill won a bunch of games as a starting quarterback. I won't be surprised if we see a masterclass Sean Payton performance here.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly capable of that. One of the best in the business, still going strong, leading the Broncos to just another awesome season. Marcus, these two teams, I believe, combined, counting the postseason, for a 31-6 record. Something's got to give this week, though. I'll look at the other side of the matchup here, and then I want to get your matchup for who you think is going to be in the Super Bowl. But Marcus, we got the Seattle Seahawks, the number 1 seed, coming off that 41-6 victory. And then the LA Rams, the number 5 seed, who, again, you can't have 2 divisional winners from a dominant division. And so, man, I think this is as up in the air still as it gets, because Sean McVay is so good and Matthew Stafford is so good. They've been here. They've done this song and dance before. They've won a Super Bowl together. They have the upper hand when it comes to the playoff success, because that's something that Mike McDonald is new to him. It's new to Sam Darnold. I think that the coaching staffs are both the best in the league. I mean, overall the best coaching staffs in the league right now. Who has the upper hand? Is it Seattle with all the talent, no roster holes, or is it Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay combo in LA Rams?
I just have a hard time seeing how the Rams are going to stop Jackson Smith-Njigba, whereas Seattle has plenty of answers to slow down Puka Nacua. Now, I think Puka's so good that he's going to have a massive game regardless, but at least they have potential solutions there with Devin Witherspoon, and they can use Nick Imawari, their rookie safety, over the middle of the field to just occupy some space. I think for the Rams to win this game, Matthew Stafford and Puka have to be darn near perfect. Whereas for Seattle, I think they could win this game by their defense, by creating pressure, getting turnovers. I could see them running the ball exceptionally well in this game and limiting the number of passing attempts for Sam Darnold. I also just won't be shocked if Sam Darnold, a week removed from his oblique injury, just plays a really good game and makes some plays down the field, hits Rashid Shaheed. Maybe Cooper Kupp has a little bit of a revenge game here against his former team. Seattle's just a more well-balanced team. They're at home. They're well-rested. I'm going to take the Seattle to win this one.
I'm taking Seattle as well. And so my Super Bowl matchup, Marcus, would be the Seattle Seahawks against the New England Patriots. And I think that should be a good one. You look at New England side of things, when you have an elite head coach and quarterback combination with a really rock solid defense, that'll get you a long way. I think it gets them past Denver. I'm going to go New England and the Seahawks in the Super Bowl.
What's really weird for me, Tommy, is that I'm really rooting for Denver to pull off the upset at home with Jarrett Stidham. Like, that would be really fun. Like, a really, really fun story. At the same time, I don't want to see Seattle against Denver in the Super Bowl with Jarrett Stidham because there's no way that game will be close. I don't think New England and Seattle would be particularly close either, but at least you have a chance in that one with Drake May and that offense. So I'm in this weird spot of I don't know how to root for this AFC matchup, but actually I'm going to agree with you. I think it's going to be Seattle, New England, a Super Bowl that we got back in, was that 2016? One of the best Super Bowls that we ever had. Before. So that would be a fun one. I think we would really enjoy it.
And I'll pat myself on the back just a little bit here because I think this is a prediction I made back around week 12 or 13. And so kind of fun to see it come to fruition if indeed that is the case. But anything can happen this week. We will find out. Should be a really good championship round here, regardless of the quarterback situation we're dealing with in Denver. You are tuned into Stacking the Box, where NFL fans come to talk, celebrate, and debate. For more coverage, hit up fansided.com, powered by the passionate fans at FanSided. You can check out Marcus's work over there in our work on the FanSided NFL Network. Marcus, let's talk about the coaching updates here because along with obviously the NFL playoffs, which is such a big time of year, all football fans can get behind that. We can also get really into all the coaching changes happening around the league because quite frankly, Marcus, I don't know if we've ever seen anything quite this big. We talked about Mike Tomlin just this past week, how big that was. But now Tomlin, Harbaugh, Sean McDermott, I mean, what is happening here? You're looking at longtime coaches, all the job. I mean, nearly a third of the NFL was up for grabs, new head coaching jobs this cycle. What do you make of all of this? And kind of can you run us through the coaching updates and everything we know so far?
I think there's a push from owners and presidents of these teams to win right now. And they're no longer just giving these coaches the benefit of the doubt because, you made the playoffs or you had winning seasons. I think not having multiple wins in the playoffs or reaching the AFC championship game or the NFC championship game or making the Super Bowl is just no longer enough. Like, it's time to get some wins. And that's why Pittsburgh and Baltimore and Buffalo are moving on from three very well-respected coaches. And honestly, in the case of all three of them, I can't blame them at all because it feels like in all three cases, those teams have all peaked with their current coaching staff. And now it's time to find somebody else that can get you to the next level. And we can start in Buffalo with Sean McDermott. I think my issue with Buffalo moving on from McDermott isn't that I don't think McDermott should be fired. it doesn't make a lot of sense to keep Brandon Beane as the president and GM and let go of McDermott. I kind of think you needed to move on from both those guys. And that's going to create a really interesting dynamic on whoever Buffalo hires next. But I do agree they had to have some kind of change after petering out in the divisional round of the playoffs once again.
Yeah, Marcus, I think Bills fans were thinking the same thing. It's like, Brandon Beane, are you not responsible for all of your failed draft picks that you've had since Josh Allen, really? I mean, to see him not only not get the blame for kind of the way that the roster has been trending in Buffalo, but to also get a promotion somehow out of this was just bizarre, I thought, overall. It felt to me, Marcus, and I agree with you, like it's either an all or nothing thing. Like, you guys are both gone, or we're going to try to run it back one more time here. If anything, I would think that McDermott was more deserving maybe of sticking around for another year than what Brandon Beane was. And so interesting to see them stick around and get that promotion in Buffalo.
Really quickly on McDermott, because this was not the best Josh Allen postseason game. He had 4 turnovers, albeit one of them was on a perfectly thrown ball to Brandon Cooks that just got ripped away. So I even have trouble saying it's 4 turnovers because that one wasn't his fault. I keep coming back to they were up by 4 with 2 minutes left in this game. All the defense has to do is not give up a touchdown. Denver had to go the entire length of the field, and in typical Sean McDermott fashion, they go right down the field and they score a touchdown. Now, in overtime, they got to stop on the first drive. And then on the third drive, on the interception, on the Brandon Cooks interception, they had him pinned inside the 10-yard line. And, of course, Bo Nix takes him all the way down the field. It just feels like it's the same song and dance for Buffalo over and over. You need one stop. Your defensive-minded head coach can't get that stop. What's the point of having him there if you're going to give up 30 points in every playoff game that you play in?
So many parallels, Marcus, to Mike Tomlin. You know that over the years, and Mike Tomlin, known for his defensive-minded ability, hasn't been able to show up in the playoffs. And McDermott's had the same exact issues. And so to answer the original question, did the Bills make the right decision? Absolutely, yes. I do think that it was time to move on from Sean McDermott. I think that there was a time where he was a really good coach. He was a really good delegator. It just got stale. And it's to the point, Marcus, where, again, like Tomlin, you're relying too heavily on these older players, these defensive players that are wearing down as the season goes on. They don't have the speed and ability. You're trying to put duct tape over a sinking ship. It's just not working. I think that you need to get younger. You need to dump some of these contracts. You need to get a little bit more innovative there. And so I think it was the right decision. Now, while we're on the topic, Marcus, let's break down the rest of what we know so far in terms of the head coach hirings. That is John Harbaugh, obviously taking the New York Giants job, Jeff Hafley taking the Miami job, and then Kevin Stefanski, the 2-time coach of the year, taking the job, head coach job with the Atlanta Falcons, and Robert Saleh finalizing a deal with the Tennessee Titans, Marcus. Of those decisions, anything that you would deem as a questionable move by the organization, something you would like to see different there maybe?
I don't get the John Harbaugh New York Giants one. Now, if you're giving me the argument that Harbaugh can get this team back to 8 and 9 wins a season because the Giants have been so bad for so many years, and the goal is just to raise the floor, okay, I get it. Like, I do think he is a floor-raising head coach. But the goal isn't to win 8 or 9 games every single season. The goal is to win a Super Bowl. And if you're the Giants, you're going to have to go with a coach I think has a much higher upside than Harbaugh, who's not an offensive-minded coach, who has had more control on the defensive side of the ball in recent years. But the Ravens' defenses haven't been particularly good during that stretch either since Mike Macdonald left. I don't get it. You're hiring an older coach. Maybe he brings in an awesome staff that you feel great about. But as a Cowboy fan, I'm just not all that afraid of John Harbaugh at this stage of his career.
Yeah, Marcus, I know that this is the unpopular opinion compared to everything that's what's out there right now. It's like, oh, he was the best man for the job, the top candidate on the market. Everybody's head over heels with it right now. But I'm with you. I think that this is a little bit of an overrated signing, and I think that we're kind of just going off of name value a little bit. And to his credit, he was a former Super Bowl winning head coach and 18-year veteran as a head coach, and has done some really great things for the Baltimore Ravens. But I think that there comes a time where it's like, all right, is it advantageous to kind of get that fresh start and try with an organization, or should you just go younger? Should you get more innovative? Should you hire someone who is going to call plays for either side of the ball? Because we know that Harbaugh is a former special teams coach, and he's one of the few delegators in the NFL. What is he going to offer you at this point? Is he going to bring in an older staff with some of the guys that he's worked with? What looks like Todd Monken's going to follow him, and we both like Monken as a coach. What are they going to do at defensive coordinator? I just think that with the Giants going through 6 head coaches since Tom Coughlin in 2015, and you've got a 22-year-old quarterback, you've got some really young pass rushers and a team to build around. Maybe Harbaugh is the right guy that can kind of make them a floor raiser, but is he a ceiling raiser? Nope. And this is what I wrote about on our Giants website on FanSided, Marcus. I don't think at this stage of his career, like I wouldn't have thought with Mike Tomlin, I don't think that they are ceiling raising head coaches. I think they are floor raising head coaches. And so I guess if the question is, do you want to get out of the gutter? Do you want to escape being a 4-win football team? Then you hired the right coach. But if you want to get back on Super Bowl track and maybe look into the future instead of what can I do here now, look 3-4 years down the line, how can I make this a championship contender? I probably would have went with a younger hire here.
So would I. Again, it's not to say that Harbaugh's always been a bad coach, because that's not true. Mm-hmm. But these coaches age out or they get a little stale. I mean, again, look at the guys that we're just talking about, Mike Tomlin and Sean McDermott. Bill Belichick had this happen. Yeah. Bill Parcells had it even happen a little bit when he was in Dallas. So there's a time limit for all of these great coaches. Maybe Harbaugh is reinvigorated in New York with this Giants team. I just think they have such a long way to go. And by the time that roster's ready to compete, you're going to be talking about a 65, 66-year-old coach. Just again, I could be wrong. I've been wrong on these coaches before. I just don't see it.
Now, counter argument here, Marcus, and everybody uses this example because it is the prime example. Andy Reid was already quite a ways into his coaching career. He was a bit on the older side when he took the Chiefs job, and that turned out wonderfully. And so there's always the chance that maybe this is enough for the Giants. However, I mean, that we're looking at like the peak example of things working out there.
Not only that, but you're talking about a coach that was 10 years younger when he switched jobs. Like, that's a big difference, right? Like 10 years in the NFL is a long time. And look at how we feel about Andy Reid right now, or feel like the offense is getting stale. And at least he calls one side of the ball. I think it could work in Harbaugh if he gets the right staff. I'm just doubtful that he gets it.
I agree, Marcus. Let's talk about Robert Saleh for a minute here. And his journey to the Tennessee Titans was obviously the former head coach of the New York Jets, did some brilliant things with the defense over there. However, the offense was always a struggle. I mean, no matter what they tried at quarterback, who they drafted, went to the San Francisco 49ers, did some good things with a banged up defense. And now Saleh is the head coach of the Tennessee Titans. I mean, I saw you made a comment, Marcus, that maybe the Titans should have went with an offensive mind here. I mean, you just drafted a quarterback first overall in Cam Ward. You got to develop that guy. I mean, you got to get the most out of him that you can possibly get. And I agree with that sentiment there. Is this the right move? I mean, should the focus even be shifted towards the defense at all when you have to make sure that your number one overall pick pans out?
We saw the Patriots hire a defensive-minded head coach last offseason of Mike Vrabel, and that's obviously working out. But one of the reasons why I think it worked out is you were able to get Josh McDaniels, who I think is forever going to be an offensive coordinator the rest of his time in the NFL. Like, he's never going to get a head coaching job. And you got one of the best offensive coordinators to just worry about that side of the ball. I think the Robert Saleh hire could work if he hires the equivalent of Josh McDaniels. Who is that name? I don't know. I think Mike McDaniel is a pipe dream. I know they work together in San Francisco, but to me, he feels like a guy that has one good year and then bolts. Is it someone like Bobby Slowick, who worked with Robert Saleh in San Francisco? Do you go after someone like Brian Daboll? It's so hard to get these coordinator hires right when you're a defensive-minded head coach. And the most important thing for Tennessee right now is the development of Cam Ward, who I thought showed some major strides in the second half of the season. but do you have the right guy to get him to that next level, to help him progress and develop as a passer? I don't know. How much do we blame Robert Saleh for the Jets situation? I think we'll find out. To me, this is just, I think he's a good coach. I'm not sure he's the right coach for Tennessee.
And that's the interesting part, Marcus, is as good as we've seen some of those Jets defenses, the Jets still didn't have any success whatsoever under Saleh. And that's a little bit of a concern when you're talking about a retread quarterback here, or excuse me, a retread head coach here. I don't know if it was the right decision. I just think that you have to make sure the offense works out. This move does not guarantee that. And so a conversation that we always have, Marcus, is even if Saleh is the right guy for the job and he does wonders for that Titans defense, which has some quality assets on it already, if you get the offensive coordinator right, they're not guaranteed to stick there, because that is such a coveted position. When you can find a good offensive play caller, they'll get snatched up right away. And we talk about how there's only a few good, really good defensive-minded head coaches around the league right now, Marcus. My count would be like 3 of the top 15 coaches are defensive-minded. You've got Mike Macdonald, Mike Vrabel, and D'Amico Ryans. And outside of that, would you have argued that like Sean McDermott was the 4th best defensive mind? And even then, their defense wasn't very good. And so the trends in today's NFL tells you that you really should be looking at that offensive-minded hire, a guy that can call the plays for you. You're not going to find a Ben Johnson in every coaching cycle, but you might be able to get a Clint Kubiak or someone who is at least young and had a lot of success in that department, can call offensive plays. That obviously does not fit the bill of Saleh. And I think it's a little bit concerning. And I think if you are a Titans fan right now, you might be a little bit disappointed in this hiring.
But again, if they go out and they get a really good offensive coordinator, and I have my concerns with like Dable. I think he's a good offensive coordinator. I don't think he's great. I think you feel significantly better about this hire. So let's wait and see until we see what the staff looks like. If Saleh hires an all-star cast, kind of like the way Dan Campbell did his first couple of years in Detroit, maybe we will feel better about him.
From the highs, the heartbreaks, every headline, this is Stacking the Box, your source of NFL talk, powered by FanSided.com and the voices at FanSided. Make sure you check out our work at FanSided.com and the FanSided NFL Network. All right, Marcus, let's talk about the remaining head coaching vacancies right now. And boy, oh boy, did a good one just open up. We talked about Sean McDermott losing his job. And man, we had a conversation on the phone before recording this podcast, Marcus. Would John Harbaugh maybe have held off another week on signing with the New York Giants had he known that you could coach the great Josh Allen? What is it that every head coach candidate dreams of? You don't ever land in a situation, Marcus, where you can coach a quarterback as good as Josh Allen. Not only are you essentially guaranteed a playoff berth every year, you have Super Bowl aspirations every year. This is the reigning NFL MVP. I think he's going to get you there at some point, regardless of who's that head coach. Like, I think he's going to find himself in the Super Bowl here soon. He's just too stinking good. First of all, almost a two-parted question here. Do you think that John Harbaugh would have made a different decision in hindsight? And why is Buffalo by far the best coaching vacancy right now?
I bet he probably would have. I think that Buffalo spot would have been really intriguing. But I'm actually not convinced that Buffalo's the best opening left. And the reasons why are obvious, right? You get Josh Allen, and that's awesome. But outside of Josh Allen, Tommy, what are you getting? You're getting a really old defense that needs the linebacker core replaced, the edge rushing core replaced. They've got one cornerback in Christian Benford. You're hoping Maxwell Harrison can take a step up. You've got a wide receiver core that needs to be completely revamped and not a lot of flexibility. They are currently $11 million over the cap, and there's not a lot of moves that they can make to become big spenders in free agency. Whereas I think Baltimore, even though I think there's a sizable gap between Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, you've got your wide receivers in place, at least with Zay Flowers. We'll see about Rashad Bateman. You've got an offensive line that's pretty much in place. There are some players on defense, but you need to get younger on that unit. I kind of think Baltimore, just given their flexibility, is way more intriguing to me. I mean, again, you're coaching Josh Allen, and that could be enough. But again, outside of Josh Allen, if you remove Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, I think Baltimore's a better situation because I like the front office better. I like the overall ownership a lot better. And for coaches, that matters a lot.
Yeah, Marcus, I don't disagree that Baltimore has a better supporting cast right now. But to me, if you think that Allen is better than Lamar, and I do right now, I mean, we just saw Lamar have a down season. We can attribute that to all the injuries he dealt with. But Josh Allen is one of one. And I think that regardless, and I think that honestly, you could make a counter argument and say they were a few plays from going to the championship game, despite having all of their talent deficiencies at wide receiver, on defense, the aging roster. Like, even with all that stuff, they were right there in the race. Now, I do think that Baltimore has an easier path to the division.
I was going to say, does the division make a difference here? Because if you take the Buffalo job, you know that New England and Mike Vrabel and Drake May are going to be there your entire career. Whereas in the AFC North, it's the Steelers without a quarterback and without a coach. It's the Browns without a quarterback and without a coach, and the Bengals who have absolutely no hope on defense. Now, they do have a quarterback who can't stay healthy. I wonder if the AFC North is just a much better path to having home playoff games.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. However, the Bills will find themselves in the postseason. They did it with this roster. They're going to do it with the next head coach. When the roster theoretically gets better, and it should, you give Josh Allen more weapons to work with. You get him younger and more athletic on defense. I don't see any reason why he's not that guy. He's the LeBron James of the NFL right now. Like, there's no reason why he's not going to at least get you into the tournament, and you cash your ticket into the tournament with Josh Allen. Like we saw, even with not a very good roster, pretty much anything can happen. And maybe if Allen just has a turnover fewer in that game, maybe they find themselves in the championship. I think it's a good argument either way. And again, nothing against Lamar Jackson at all. I think the Ravens are tremendous situation right now. And so, Marcus, for our last few minutes here, let's just rank the top destinations remaining. You and I disagree a little bit about this. I would put Buffalo number one. We also have Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Las Vegas, Cleveland, and Arizona. How would you rank the remaining head coaching vacancies in the NFL?
So I think Baltimore, Buffalo, 1 and 2, whatever order you want. And I think a lot of people will take Buffalo. Totally understand. To me, the third is the Raiders, because you've got a ton of flexibility. You've got a bunch of cap space. You have the number one overall pick. So you have your path to a quarterback. Whereas I think like Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and Arizona, what's the path? Like, because Arizona is going to be trading Kyler Murray. Cleveland doesn't have a top 5 pick in a draft that has one quarterback, and Pittsburgh drafts I think they're 21st, and they don't have a path to a quarterback either. I think Pittsburgh probably has the best long-term outlook, but that's going to be a roster that's going to be really gutted over the next 2 years as you start to get rid of some of these aging veterans. There are some young pieces on this offense, but they're all going to be up for contract extensions over the next year or two. Cleveland has such a stink on them right now. And they're a little bit more up against the cap than some of these other teams. So I think I would go Raiders, Pittsburgh, Browns, Cardinals.
All right, Marcus, I'm doing Buffalo, Baltimore, Pittsburgh over the Raiders. Raiders number 4, Browns, and then the Cardinals as the final destination. I'm having the Steelers over, not just because that's my football team, but you get infinite job security. Even though they're not in a position to draft a quarterback this year, they do have 12 draft picks. They're going to spend to the cap ceiling. They're just a good organization. Pretty much overall, you're going to get time for that coach to do what he wants to do there. But I can see how you can be split on those first couple of teams for sure there, and then the next few as well. All right. This is the Stacking the Box show. We premiere every Tuesday evening. Be sure to check it out. You can follow Marcus's work on X at Marcus_Mosher. You can follow me on X at Tommy Jaggi. You can download the Stacking the Box podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Also, check us out on YouTube. You can follow my written content on stillcurtain.com. Check out Marcus's written content on the FanSided NFL Network. And be sure to check out fansided.com for all your daily sports news and opinions. And thanks again for listening to the Stacking the Box podcast.